All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our UFC Saskatoon, I think is how you say it, Saskatoon pre-fight show. My name is Eddie Law. I am your host today. With me, as always, for these ones is Jesse Ruvalcaba out of California. How you doing, man?
Man, just being out here in the hot sun.
I hear you, man. I mean, look, it's every day over here where I'm at, you know, in Arizona. But I know in California, it's you guys have a little bit of a heat wave this time around, right?
Yeah, something like that. It's not too bad. There's a little bit of a breeze, but you know, it's still pretty hot.
I hear you. All right, before we talk about this weekend's card, let's talk the biggest news of the weekend already. It went down yesterday morning. Ronda Rousey announces on Good Morning America that she is fighting Holly Holm for the title on January 2nd at UFC 195. And not Miesha Tate, who was actually promised a title shot after her last win over Jessica Ai. What did you think when you heard about the switch of opponent?
It's crazy, man. It really came out of nowhere. I think if you asked anybody what were the chances of Holly Holm getting this title shot, they're pretty slim. I don't think anybody saw this coming, really. The change of opponent really is one of those things that it's one of the things that the UFC does. I mean, it just screamed UFC all over it, you know. Giving people title shots off of losses, giving people title shots that they don't deserve, and now giving a person a title shot knowing full well that they themselves didn't think that they deserved a title shot at this point. So, you know, it's one of those things that I guess we just got to live with and see what happens.
Yeah, and of course, everybody freaking out because, first of all, Miesha Tate gets the title shot, and everyone's, you know, complaining about, oh, I don't want to see the trilogy, get her arm ripped off again. I was one of them, you know, believe me. And, you know, I'll be the first one to say it. But then Holly Holm gets a shot, and my first thought was, doesn't deserve it and definitely not ready, right? I mean, Holly Holm hasn't beat anybody, and she hasn't won anything convincingly. I think both of her wins are over by decision, I think. But especially that Rocky Pennington fight really opened up my eyes to how, for lack of a better word, how fake Holly Holm's hype really is. Rocky Pennington stayed with the champion boxer, 19-time world champ in boxer, right? And she stayed with her in striking, and all Holly Holm could do was stay away, use the distance, use the tricks to keep her away. I don't think that works against Ronda Rousey. How do you think Holm's going to do against Rousey?
I think not good, probably worse than people think. Her ground game is pretty much her kryptonite at this point, from what I see. You know, nobody really tries to attack her very much, trying to take her to the ground. And I've seen some of her fights. They're pretty exciting just because she's a dynamic striker. You know, she comes out of that Greg Jackson camp, but that's about it. I mean, you know, it's just the striking that's really what everybody was hyped about. But, you know, like you said, you know, someone as no disrespect to Raquel Pennington, but somebody so low on the totem pole of you know, contenders could stay with her, not get knocked out, take some of those hard punches and keep going. I really don't even know what Ronda Rousey's going to do to her, especially since, you know, the hardest puncher in the division, you know, according to a lot of people, just got laid out and put to sleep by Ronda Rousey. So I don't even know what she's going to bring that's different to the table. Maybe a lot of yelling and a lot of screaming in the match when she's throwing these weak punches, but that's about it.
Pretty much. And then on the other side, Miesha Tate, first of all, you were talking about Bethe Correia. Bethe Correia is called out Miesha Tate, and it's laughable, right? Because I think Miesha Tate would totally stop Correia.
Yeah, I think Bethe at this point, what she needs to do, she needs to just go back and start beating people that are probably like outside of the top 15. You know, build herself back up, build that confidence back up. I mean, she's still barking at Ronda. She's trying to bark at the top of the you know, the top contenders there. She's not there. You know, she just got pretty much destroyed by what she thought she was going to be able to be better at, which was, you know, the striking department. She wasn't better at it. So, I mean, she just needs to go back to the drawing board, start from the beginning, and really work her way back up.
Yeah, about the only one that's been able to bark his way to a title shot or anything even close to that off a loss, Chael Sonnen, and you know what happened to that guy. So let's actually get into this card, man. This card is actually on Sunday. Yes, it's tomorrow on August 23rd. A lot of people don't know that, apparently. If you go on Twitter literally right now, you can see just everyone tweeting out, wait a minute, what the fuck's going on? You know, because everyone makes their plans around UFC fight cards. So now you motherfuckers actually have to go outside and do some shit. Sorry, stay with the TV for a little bit. All right, moving on here. UFC Fight Pass prelims, or early prelims, go down tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, kicked off by Misha Cirkunov against Daniel, the Werewolf of Texas Jolly. Here we go again with the terrible nicknames, but let's talk about Cirkunov first, right? He's making his UFC debut riding a 4-fight win streak coming out of HKFC. We don't know a whole lot about him, but he likes the ground game. He's got 4 submission wins on his record, along with 3 TKOs. But meanwhile, the Werewolf is an undefeated fighter, also making his UFC debut. And so far, he seems to be decently well-rounded at what I've seen on YouTube. But when on the ground, he loves the top game. Like, he just stays on top of you as much as he can. His last fight, he actually spent the entire fight on top of the guy, getting in the ground and pound game going, but it did go to decision, which he won. What do you think about this fight?
I saw a little bit about these two. Honestly, I think this is probably, unfortunately, I think this might be one of the worst ways to start an event. Both of these guys seem pretty content to just grind out wins, especially the Werewolf guy. He's the type of guy that just gets a position and just tries to hold it. He's not really all about trying to advance his position, trying to improve his position. He just gets comfortable and likes to stay there. So I see this really just being one of those grinding, grueling fights. Like you said, I think the biggest thing coming into this is that both of them are going to have the jitters. Both of them are going to be really new to this environment. So it might work in both of their favors that they're both going to be not at their best performance. I still think I forget his name, but the Werewolf, nickname Werewolf. I don't even know why they come up with these nicknames, man. There's another guy up here, 2.0? Oh, Jesus, like some really bad names. Anyway, I think he's going to just grind out another win here. I think we might see a lot more of wet blanket treatment here, and that's just how it's going to go. It's going to be one of those fights where people are going to be really disappointed on both of these guys, but hopefully this will get their jitters out of the way, and their next performance, it'll be better.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and I'm going to make my pick on this one just because I want to. First of all, I'm going to take Cirkunov. Just going off the little information, he's a more experienced fighter. I think he could take what's his name? Jolly. There you go, Jolly, the Werewolf guy. Jolly can take the fight to the ground if he wants to, but Cirkunov should be able to handle himself there. And because of the terrible nickname, I have to go against Jolly. I have no choice. Like, that's just dude, if you're gonna fight and you want to fight for a title and you want to go, it's been proven. You gotta have creativity. He has zero, very clearly. So he's got to work his game up on that. And then we actually have a tweet over from Andrew Reed. He's actually going back talking about Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm. Andrew Reed points out Holm's takedown defense is already pretty good, though. Very true, but he hasn't really fought anyone, I don't think, even close to what Ronda Rousey can do to get her to the ground with the judo and everything else. So, good point. Maybe Holm can hold her off a little bit.
If they had matched her up with someone like maybe like a Sarah McMahon or Kat Zingano, even Misha Tate, any one of those three who know how to take people to the ground, have really good background in wrestling, know how to mix up their striking with their ground attack, then I'd be more inclined to say that her takedown defense is good. Because look at what happened to Joanna Jay and Cookie Monster. Everybody said the Cookie Monster had the best takedown and everything, and Joanna Jay just stopped that and just tore her to pieces. Did the same thing with Penne. It's a different beast when someone's good at wrestling and good at MMA wrestling. Those two are very different styles. It's like Daniel Cormier versus John Jones. Everybody was like, oh yeah, DC's gonna take down John Jones at will. He's a better wrestler. Blah blah blah. John Jones took him down, stopped his takedowns, and just beat him up. And that's what I need to see from Holly Holm. I need her to fight somebody that has that MMA wrestling to be able to prove that her MMA takedowns are there. Yeah, takedowns are easy to learn, but it's a different thing when somebody can, hit you, change levels, make you think that they're going for a takedown, hit you again, and then when you're trying to block, bam, you're on your ground, or they grab an ankle and take you down off of something stupid. It's those little mistakes, those little things that make the difference. Like I said, I just need to see her face one of those upper echelon people that have it all together, that can prove that she's in that level.
Yeah, and talking about that Holm, taking on Misha Tate, that's a fight that I think should have been the one that got done. Credit to the Stand and Bang guys. They're the ones that especially Fred Kirby. He's the one that started talking about it way earlier. But I think that should have been a fight to decide the title shot. You know, if you're gonna have one of them anyway, have Holly Holm against Miesha Tate, and see if Holm even has a shot of stopping someone that can definitely take her down. You know, Miesha Tate. You know, don't even mention Ronda Rousey in that one, because Ronda Rousey would for sure be able to take her down. But yeah, let's move on to the next fight here. Topping off the Fight Pass prelims are Shane Shaolin Campbell against Elias. Don't know how to fucking say that. It's like XU is his nickname. Juju, I don't know. Andrew Reed, if you can help me with that one, let me know. But Elias Silverio, no clue what that guy's nickname means. But okay, Campbell is coming off a loss to John McDessie, who, by the way, talking about John McDessie just real quick, he was, you know how he was talking retirement after getting his jaw destroyed by Donald Cerrone? Turns out he's not retiring. He wants to fight. So yeah, John McDessie not going away. But Campbell actually lost his UFC debut to McDessie, and but he had a 3-fight win streak before that. So he's mostly a stand-up fighter, with most of his wins, you know, coming via TKO or knockout. His submission game is pretty solid. Silverio, meanwhile, you know, he has I think it's a 3-fight win streak. No, his 3-fight win streak actually got broken. What's his name? Rashid Magomedov. There we go. In his last fight, you know, I think it was in December. So Silverio has been banished to the lands of the Fight Pass because he's mostly a decision fighter. He's not really that exciting. He only has 4 finishes in his career, 3 TKOs and 1 submission. And the TKOs were super early in his career. And the submission was actually his latest win in the UFC against Ernest Chavez. Both guys are pretty experienced. What do you think about these two going at it?
Again, it's one of those things where, yeah, like you said, Silverio, his last loss coming against Magomedov, he's the type of fighter that fighting the upper echelon people, you know, the higher ranked people in his division, just is showing that he's there, he can contend, but he's not all the way there, in my opinion. Shane Campbell, on the other hand, you know, he's that exciting, that knows how to really just counter people that can take him down. You know, he's got really good way of keeping it standing. You know, he doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, but he has enough to keep it where he's best at, which is at the striking department. So he's got the better striking. To me, he's the better all-around just striker. He got caught by John McDessie and got knocked out, but I mean, you know, it was one of those things where McDessie is one of the higher-ranked fighters here. And, you know, in my opinion, Silverio really doesn't show me much in any of his fights that he's had. So I'm going to go here with Shane Campbell just because he's the all-around better striker, and I think he can put hands on Silverio and put him to sleep.
I'm with you on that one. I'm taking Campbell as well because he actually finishes fights and he's way more experienced on the feet, especially. So, all right, moving on here to the Fox Sports 1 prelims. The Fox Sports 1, the FS1 prelims start at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Kicking off the prelims are actually Chris, the Greek assassin Kalaitis, against Chris, the real deal Beal. First of all, they need to set up a catchweight fight between Ross Pearson and Chris Beal for the rights of the nickname. Lack of creativity on somebody's part. I don't know who had it first, but just like we need to have like a real battle royale with everyone nicknamed Pitbull, right? Anyone nicknamed Pitbull, exactly. Put them on the octagon at the same time, men and women. Sorry, Betch, you're gonna lose that one real fast. I got my money on Thiago Alves there to keep his nickname as Pitbull. But anyway. Chris Beal is a guy who's somewhat he has big expectations. He was undefeated until his last fight, setback decision loss against Neil Seery. But they're looking for opponents for Demetrius Johnson, man. And Chris Beal was one of those guys that they were trying to build up to hopefully one day soon give him a title shot. Now he had a 2-fight win streak. Those wins were over to Tateki Matsuda and Patrick Williams, and those still look pretty solid to me. But I don't know. He has a guy. Most of his wins come via decision, right? And he's also a guy that if he gets in the rhythm, his striking he's as good as almost anybody else other than Demetrius Johnson in that division, and he can counter with almost anybody. Kalaitis, meanwhile, is a super strong dude. This guy ate like horse meat growing up. He's just a big. He's not even that big. He's just super strong. He's like freakishly strong, and he clearly didn't go to the gym to do dumbbell curls because he looks like a normal dude, but he's strong as shit. Anyway, he has good wrestling. He has a tough top game, and his clinch game is pretty good. And if he gets you on that fence, good luck. So Chris Beal's gonna have to look to stay away from that fence. But what do you think happens in this fight?
The problem I have here is the fact that Chris Beal is dropping down again to flyweight. This is his second fight at flyweight, and yeah, like I said, I think they need to fill out the flyweight division to give Demetrius Johnson a little bit more of competition. The problem is that I think Chris Kalaitis, he's already fought some really, really experienced guys. And I think that's going to be the difference maker here. I mean, Chris Kalades, he beat Paddy Houlihan, who, if you listen to the hype, I mean, that guy is like the next Conor McGregor. You know, he's got an exciting style, and he lost he lost to Chris Kalades here by decision. You know, gave each other really, really good fight. And Chris Kalades' last loss was to Ray Borg, another dude that his last fight was just crazy good. That dude is amazingly good on the ground. I mean, he's just one of those guys that I think is on his way to the top, as long as they can keep giving him the right fights to really show off his skills. So unfortunately, I think Chris Beal is not going to be able to present anything here that Chris Kalades hasn't seen. I think the only thing that Chris Beal has going for him is that he's coming down in weight, and maybe you know, a little bit of that power might be coming with him, but I really doubt it. I mean, you know, dropping all the way down to 125 at flyweight. I mean, that's a deep cut for a lot of these dudes. And you know, Chris Beal's not too big of a guy, but he's still a pretty big guy. Carries around a lot of muscle and weight. So yeah, I just see Chris Kalades taking this one.
Yeah, and I can see that too, but I'm actually gonna go with my boy Chris Beal. I think he's gonna grind out a decision because he needs to, you know, if he wants to make a case for a title shot anytime soon, he has to make something happen here. This is his chance against a really, really tough guy in Kalades to, you know, get back on the win streak, to get back on the winning column, and hopefully get himself a title shot sometime soon. You know, especially if John Dodson wins, that'd be a weird fight. But hey, whatever. Moving on here to the, I think these guys are 205ers. Yeah, Marcos Pesao Rogero de Lima taking on Nikita Al Capone Krylov. Okay. Anyway, these might be the best nicknames on the card so far. I don't have a lot to say about this fight because I think, well, you know, I hope that it's going to be an insane fight. Krylov throws with a lot of power, and he can be reckless. And, you know, he's solid on the ground except for his jiu-jitsu defense. If you look at his record, his jiu-jitsu defense is pretty dog shit. But he can knock dudes out. Pesao, meanwhile, does knock guys out. And he does it like he hates them. Like he beats the shit out of them like they owe money. It's that crazy. Like, he just loses his mind, just swings at everything he's got. Not as crazy as Todd Duffy, but, you know, like he did against Frank Mir. That was stupid. But, you know, but he's pretty damn reckless anyway. So this could look like a street fight. I kind of hope it does. What do you think happens?
You know, I think the problem here is that De Lima, Rogerio De Lima, he hasn't beat guys, in my opinion, that are of the caliber that Krylov has beaten. And if you look at both of their records, they really don't have anybody super great that they beat. But it's just the competition, the level of competition that Krylov has already been in there. He's been in there with Soa Paleli, the Hulk, which he lost. I mean, most people lose to Soa Paleli. You know, that dude's a heavy hitter. And unless you take him into the second or third round where he just completely gasses and has nothing left, you know, he's probably going to get on top of you and kill you by just Hulk destruction. So I just see that Krylov has, you know, been in there with the bigger guys. You know, he's been in there with the heavyweights. Now he's dropped into the 205, where, you know, I think it's better suited for his body type, and I think he's bringing down, you know, a lot more strength, a bit heavier hands, and, you know, he's got 11 submissions under his belt. You know, with the heavy hands that he carries, you know, you would think that he has a lot more knockouts than he does. You know, but he doesn't. He comes in, you know, puts people down and, you know, submits them. So I think it's just going to be a bad night for Rogerio if he can't like land one huge punch and like put Krylov down. So I'm going with Krylov here. You know, it sucks because both of these guys, you know, kind of streaking right now, 2-win streak for both of them. But, you know, someone's got to lose. So I just think Rogerio is going to go back to the drawing board and improve a little bit more in his overall game.
Yeah, and while I can see that, I'm actually going to go with Pesao on this one, mostly because I watched that Tough Brazil season that he was on, and I was actually a big fan of his work on that season. So I'm going to go with him, but I could definitely see Krylov, you know, taking this one, you know, pretty dominantly. All right, moving on here. Up next, Yves Jaguan taking on Felipe Arantes. So we got a Haitian against a Brazilian in this one. At 36 years old, I'm not sure how much Yves has left. Dude used to be an almost guaranteed KO guy, but he's lost something with the years. But he can still fight, right? And he's a tough guy. He throws that spinning shit, like, you know, like as Nick Diaz would say. and he's still dangerous. So Arantes has been in the UFC for a while as well. You got two very experienced guys, but consistency has not been either one, or Arantes' friend at least. What do you think about this fight? It's a weird fight, no?
Yeah, I think this is one of those matches where they're probably going to tell the loser to kind of either think about going somewhere else or think about hanging it up. Like you said, both of these guys have a lot of experience in there. The thing is, though, I think Arantes, he's got less miles than Joban has. Jobois, or whatever, however you say it.
I don't know how to say it.
He's got 30 fights already, you know? It's a lot of mileage on that body, you know, and his style of fighting is not like GSP, where you can say, oh, you know, he had a lot of fights, but, you know, he didn't take a lot of damage, or, you know, he's real careful. No, Eves is the type of guy that just goes out there and likes to put hands on people and, you know, make it exciting. Both of these guys are trading win-losses recently, so neither, and you look at their record, neither of them have really beat. Again, you know, I'm a stickler for some of these things where, like, you know, you look at their competition and it's not like the top competition that other people are facing. Neither of these guys have really been in there with, you know, the top of the top. So, I mean, I just think Arantes is going to take this one just because he's got the less mileage on. And Eves has been knocked out recently. So, I mean, and Arantes really hasn't. I think he's been losing by decisions, you know, really close decisions. I think he lost a split decision. So it's not like, you know, he's just getting blasted out of there. And I think that's a problem that Eves is going to run into, that he's probably going to start, you know, going Chuck Liddell style, where he's in there, he's thinking he's fine, and he's going to, you know, not see a punch coming and get clipped, you know. Hopefully that's not what happens, but I mean, you know, we might be looking at the end of Eves' career here.
Yeah, and I can see that as well, but I mean, I'm taking my boy Eves, man. I'm a fan of the guy. I don't know. I always, whenever it comes to this kind of fight where it's that, you know, I don't want to say that close, but it's kind of a weird fight in my opinion. I always go with the guy that I've seen so many times, right? And I've seen Arantes too a couple times, but he's never done anything too impressive. Eves has a pretty impressive career so far. I mean, you know, in his career anyway, has pretty impressive performances anyway. So I'm gonna take Eves on this one, hopefully to just get like a big win. And you know, if he wants to keep fighting, I mean, do your thing, man. It's your choice. But I like to see my favorite fighters go out on wins. So I mean, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, hey, keep on trucking, man. Hopefully you go out with the storybook ending. Anyway, moving on here to the main prelim, the featured prelim. Rounding him out, Sam Hands of Stone Stout taking on Frankie Perez. This one is the top prelim because it's Stout, in my opinion. They're hoping he has something left in the tank, but he's been declining steadily in his last few fights. He's kind of a gatekeeper in that division, and he's been in the UFC a very long time. And he's only 31 years old, but again, he's got a lot of cage miles, right? So, you know, he seems to be losing a little bit every single fight. Perez, meanwhile, is only 26, and he hasn't been fighting that, you know, as long as Stout has. He lost his UFC debut to Johnny Case via TKO, but Perez is mostly a grappler with a serviceable standard game. You know, you can use it. It's not, you know, dominant, but you can use it. And so anyway, if he gets this fight to the ground, I favor Perez in it. But man, Sam Stout is Sam Stout. You know, whenever you count him out, you know, he does something. You know, he does something big. So it's hard for me to pick here because I've been a fan of Stout. But what do you think?
I think the problem here is, like you said, I think Sam Stout, even though he's not that old, he's taken too many miles. He's put too many miles on his body. And if you look down this card, I mean, you're looking at a couple people that they're just brought into Canada just because they're Canadians and just because they think that they've got one more in them. You know, and I think that's the problem here. I think Sam Stout, from his last fight, you know, he didn't look good. He looked really, really slow. He looked like it wasn't him. I mean, his fight with, who was it, Spencer Fisher? That was a great fight, but that was, what was it, like 2008 and then 2000 something else. You know, it was a long time ago, and those fights weren't like, they were almost like Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald-esque, where it's just back and forth, just punches thrown everywhere, you know, people falling down and getting rocked and everything. Those fights just aren't good for your body later on in life, and I think that's what we're seeing right now is Sam Stout really slowing down. And he doesn't have, for a couple of years now, he doesn't have his main coach, who was also his brother-in-law. So, I mean, you can see the decline in his skill level ever since then. Like, he has never been the same ever since that. So, I just think, like you said, Perez here, younger guy, only 2 losses on his career, one knockout recently, but I mean, I think he can bounce back pretty well. And like I said, just less damage on the body, and that's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I'm taking Perez as well. Younger guy should be able to get the fight to the ground and finish off Sam Stout. But if Sam Stout wins, I will not be mad at all. All right, let's move on to the main card here. On FS1, kicking off at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. The ladies are going first. The strawweights as number 8, Marina Iron Lady Moroz taking on Valerie Trouble Eterno. Moroz is an undefeated fighter. She's undefeated especially with that armbar win over Joanne Calderwood in the first round in April. She's a bad chick, man. And she scares the hell out of everybody. Everybody thought JoJo was gonna just, light her up on the feet. No chance. She was able to basically take anything JoJo threw at her and then armbarred her to shit in the first round. So, and she's, in my opinion, she's a lot better than what she showed in that fight against JoJo, because her ground game is pretty damn scary for that division, and she's only 23 years old. Valerie, meanwhile, is tough on the feet and has a nasty head kick with a lot of power on it. She can knock girls out, but I think this is a tougher fight for Valerie than Marina, because while Marina's stand-up is not elite, it's improving, right? And it's serviceable, and it can, and she showed that she could defend strikes, especially when she showed against JoJo. So I think she'll get the fight to the ground early, and I think she might be taking an arm home, man. But what do you think about this fight?
I got to disagree with you. I think what we saw from Marina Moroz in her last fight is not conducive of what she can really do. I agree with that. But I also don't think that what we saw in JoJo was what she can do either. I mean, later she came out saying that, she was going through a lot of problems, personal problems, stuff that just had her not in her mindset. And yeah, if you look at that fight again, that's not the JoJo that we all remember and know. She's a really, really vicious striker, really, really aggressive, and she just was none of that. She was just kind of out there, kind of trying to throw out a little jabs here and there, just kind of pawing out there, and then just got, rocked and destroyed by somebody that had better concentration on that night. And that's the only thing that really gives me kind of a worry here, because like you said, Marina Moroz 6-0, she just is looking good. But again, Valerie Letourneau, she's been in there with some of the top competitors in her division. She's given a lot of them trouble. She's lost to a couple of them, but she hangs in there with people. Top competition. She even had a decision loss to the current contender, right? What's her name?
Well, you're talking about Letourneau, right? She has 3 losses on her record. Those 3 losses, I think, were decision losses, but they were like a little bit away from being her wins. She could be. Yeah. I mean, you could argue she could be undefeated right now. If you watch those fights, you could easily argue that she should be undefeated, right?
See, and that's the thing, and those are against top competitions, people that are now coming into the fray, becoming contenders, and that's the problem that I see here is that Marina Moroz, this is going to be her step up. I think if she pulls off this victory, she's going to be probably thrust right into the spotlight, being a top contender for whoever wins the title next, or whoever holds on to the title, at 125. So I just see that as a really good fight. Hopefully people are going to check this one out, because this one has got really, really good implications for a future title contender. But I also think that Letourneau is going to take this one, especially because she's also in her hometown, her home state, basically. She's going to have the home crowd advantage, and I think she's got the better experience to really, help her through this fight. It's not going to be an easy fight. It's not going to be a pretty fight, but I think it's going to be her win.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of swaying me a little bit here, but I like Moroz a lot. Just her style, she just gets the hell out of everybody. And I'm still gonna pick Moroz on this one, but I mean, you made a really good point. Claudia Gadelha, but by the way, these 3 losses are outside of the UFC. She's undefeated in the UFC. Letourneau is. Yeah. So lost to Claudia Gadelha, decision split. Alexis Davis, decision split. Sarah Kaufman, she lost via TKO. So I mean, those are elite fighters in the women's division, and they're I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard to pick against the Letourneau, but I'm gonna take Moroz on this one, just hoping that we can start actually building female stars. Because I mean, on another side note, the UFC is horrible at building women's MMA stars, right? I mean, they're just Rusty Holly Holman and this shit. They it's almost like they're almost begging to throw Paige Van Zandt at Joanne. Joanne, and that's not gonna help. All right, PVZ is good, but she's not ready for a title shot. Holly Holm's definitely not ready. Betch Correia was not ready, but she was undefeated, so they said fuck it. So the UFC is pretty terrible at building stars in the women's divisions, and it's not 100% their fault because there's not a lot of them out there. But you got Alexa Grasso out there. You got
oh my god.
Relax, okay, relax. She just got injured. When she comes back and she takes that Invicta title, call her up to the UFC and then build her up. Don't just throw her into Joe. All right? Oh, dude, stop hitting on the girl. All right, stop hitting on the girl.
See, that's the problem. Nobody knows how much you obsess over her. I mean, in our group chat, people should see like the love you throw her way, the pictures. I mean, you might as well tattoo her name across your forehead and just be like, going to all her fights, holding up a sign, "I love you, marry me," and stuff. Because Jesus.
I'm gonna try to go to her next one if it's on the West Coast, bro. I might do that sign. Anyway, all right, moving on here to the next fight. The next fight on the main card. A guy who's becoming a fan favorite, especially in his native Canada, Olivier, the Quebec kid, Aubin Mercier, against Tony. And this is funny. The UFC actually removed that 2.0. I mean, I'm looking for it right here on the card, and they don't have 2.0 as his nickname anymore. So maybe he heard us last time because we kind of shit on him for it. But he used to be Tony 2.0 Sims. So that's the fight. That just what's weird about the names real quick is I get on stupid tangents. The thing about those two names, it just seems like they don't fit, right? Olivier Aubin Mercier against Tony Sims. Like, fuck. So anyway, this is pretty simple in my opinion. Sims is a wrestler who has pretty damn good striking, and he's not a wild striker. He's actually pretty damn technical, and he's a guy that he thinks his stuff out, right? He sticks to game plans and whatnot. Dude is really quick on his feet. But he can fight on either stance too. He's a scary guy on the feet, right? And he's got a lot of power in his hands, which we saw in his knockout win over Steve Montgomery in his UFC debut in June. Mind you, he only has one fight in the UFC, so those jitters should be gone by now. But when his opponent is in his home country, they might come back a little bit. Anyway, Aubin Mercier is a good prospect coming out of the Ultimate Fighter, which is a surprising thing to say these days because most of those tough guys kind of suck. But he's riding a 2-fight win streak with submission wins over Jake Lindsay and David Michaud, who those two guys aren't elite, but they're pretty damn solid. So I give that 2-fight win streak, a bit of credit right now. Anyway, his ground game is pretty strong. He loves scrambles, and he's a nightmare in those scrambles. And he's always looking for positions to get submissions from. His stand-up is serviceable and it's improving, but he's gonna need to worry about Sims landing a solid right hand on his chin, or even worse, that overhand right that Sims can knock people out with. It is a weird, to me another hard one to pick. But who you got in this one?
It's tough, but I'm gonna go with the Canadian here, Mercier. I think that he's just got the better grappling, the better ground game. We've seen him do pretty good things with his ground game. The problem here is that he's got all his wins by submission. So to me, it shows that his striking game is really to set up his ground game, and hopefully he's got a better striking game in place for this fight than just kind of trying to, Jake Shields his way into it, like kind of just throwing out a couple punches here and just trying to level change and try to get a takedown, because Tony Sims is going to make him pay for any of those mistakes that he might do. Tony Sims coming in here with 10 knockouts, 2 submissions, so both of these guys finishers. And that's the good thing about the rest of this card going down. Most of it is we're looking at people that like to finish fights. They don't really like to go to decisions. I'm going to eat my words for the next fight, but most of these guys, you're looking at finishers. You're looking at people that are trying to for finish and try to be somebody in their division. And so I just think that the overwhelming odds here are in Mercier's favor, just because he's the hometown guy. He's got the better ground game, and I think he's going to be able to take Sims down, negate his striking, and just probably submit him and get his 8th submission win.
Yeah. All right. Max Reed tweeting in, I've got the Quebec kid on this one. Nobody's beating that hair. I'm with you on that one, man. No one's beating that hair. But as well, I don't think Sims has any chance against Mercier. The kid's in his home country, and he's gonna take that win. All right, moving on here to the next fight on the main card. We have Chadler Priest, the disciple, against Francisco Trinaldo in a very unpronounceable nickname. So fuck it. Nickname is Brazil.
It means redwood in Brazilian.
Oh, okay. The Redwood. We'll go with Redwood then. All right.
Yeah.
Chad Laprise is at home. Dude is here's the thing about this fight. Chad Laprise is, in my opinion, good everywhere. Right. I think he's pretty good on his feet. He's technical on his feet. He does bounce around a little bit, but he's always in motion. He's always moving around. He's got pretty decent footwork, if not good footwork. And I think Trinaldo is a guy who is overrated, right? I think Trinaldo's pretty damn overrated. He kind of built up this bit of a reputation as a kind of a knockout guy, a guy that's going to be violent and put Deuce to sleep. But he kind of comes out violent and then he kind of just pulls back and goes to decision. So on this one, I think it's pretty. For me, it's an easy call. I'm taking Laprise at home in front of his Canadian crowds against a guy that's pretty overrated. And we get Chad Laprise, who I'm pretty sure is undefeated. Yeah, he's going to continue that undefeated streak and go 12-0. What do you think?
Well, here's the problem here. Trinaldo, I think it's actually his first 10 fights, or it might have been within his first 11 fights. He went 5 KO, 5 submissions. So that's where his streak came from. Of being this guy that finishes fights, was really, really good. His last 5 fights, horrible decisions. Squeaking by, not really being that guy that he used to be. And then I look back and I see the differences because of his age. I think he's 37 coming into this fight. So I think the problem is with people, with fighters that come into the sport and actually make it to the UFC when in their later years. That's the problem we're seeing, is that they're not the guys that were coming up, being like, super good, like just having all these epic wins. And now they get into the UFC and they're too old, and these younger guys are going to start catching up with them really, really quickly. And for Laprise here, he's the one guy on Olivier Mercier's record that shut him down completely. Wasn't having any of that ground. He just knew exactly how to take him out of his game plan and beat him. The thing that I don't like is that, he was finishing fights up until his last 3. His last 3 have been decisions. And that's a big kind of an alarm for me, because of the fact that means that tells me that most of these guys were good enough to be in the UFC, but just are barely good enough to be here in the UFC right now. They're squeaking by with decision wins when they were coming into the UFC with all this hype and everything, finishing people and stuff. And to me, it just says that they were fighting fighters that just weren't up to par. So this should be a good fight in the sense that I think we'll see where both of these guys are at, really. But I think Laprise, like you said, is going to continue on, have a 12-0 under his belt, just because of his all-around game, being able to neutralize pretty much whatever people want to do. Like I said, just going back and look at the way he beat Mercier, I mean, he really knew exactly what Mercier was going to try to do, and he negated it very well. So I think he's a smart fighter, and he's going to come in and he's going to really neutralize Trinaldo and just kind of just beat on him. Hopefully he doesn't get a decision. Hopefully he gets a finish, but Trinaldo's not easy to finish, so it might be a long 15-minute fight here. Yeah,
I'm with you on it. I think Trinaldo's going to lose this one, man, and it sucks because, again, just like you were saying, all those big performances were early in his career, and all he has now, even those he's on a 3-fight winning streak. To be fair, he's on a 3-fight winning streak, but they're all decisions, just like you said, just barely squeaking by. So, Laprise should get this one and continue his undefeated career. All right, moving on to the next fight. A guy that I'm surprised is still, well, actually, 2 guys that I'm kind of surprised is still in the UFC, but match him up. Fuck it. Patrick Cote, the Predator, against the People's Warrior, Josh Berkman. Now, Josh Berkman's a guy who, had it not been for Hector Lombard pissing hot, you could say probably be back in Bellator, or maybe or in Bellator, or back at World Series of Fighting. It's you kind of look at him like, didn't you lose your last fight? But just because the guy pissed hot, you kind of stuck around, right? So that's a weird one. And then Patrick Cote, I'm surprised it's still kind of relevant. If you think about it. When he left, or he was cuffing the UFC, I don't remember. But when he came back, he decided to just go ahead and lose to Kung Lee right off the bat. So regardless, it's a decent matchup. Cote's a big puncher, and he kind of moves around a little bit. Remember he used to bounce around a lot, and then once he tore his ACL, he's kind of flat-footed now. You know, he's a guy that's in there, and you just kind of sit back and just fold your arms and, you know, let's see what Cote has left. Berkman, meanwhile, I don't have any faith in. I think he doesn't belong in the UFC. I really don't. You know what I mean? Even though he got that win over John Fitch, you know, way forever ago. I don't even know if it's forever ago. It was actually was it a couple years ago that he won beat John Fitch?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And you know, he leaves the UFC, goes on a tear, comes back, whatever. I just don't think he's UFC, you know, caliber talent. But hell, you know, if he wins this one, he stays, right? This is kind of a weird fight. What do you think in this one?
I don't think he stays, whether or not he wins or loses. Josh Berkman is one of those guys that he went out on a 3-fight win streak of the UFC before. He lost 3 in a row, and it looks like he's going to go out on another basically 3-fight losing streak. The only thing that saves him is if you look at his record, he's got one that was turned over from a loss to no contest, just because Hector Lombard pissed like he had like 5 guys pissing with him. You know, like his steroids was through the roof. But you know, the thing that makes me think that Patrick Cote still has something left in the tank is the fact that he went against an exciting striker in Wonderboy Thompson and took him to a decision. And that's because of his years and years of experience. He sees everything. He knows what people are going to do, how people set up stuff, and he knows how to avoid taking a lot of damage. He hasn't been the same fighter as he was before. You know, but a lot of people are like, oh yeah, he used to be a lot better, blah, 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 blah. In my opinion, he's always been the same. He's always been kind of like a little bit better than a GSP in striking, kind of the same in the wrestling department. He's the all-around fighter, but he's never been the type to be like, oh, you know, that guy is knocking people out. He's the next Johnny Hendricks. He's just steamrolling people. He's just a term that not a lot of people use in MMA is that he's a journeyman fighter. And that's how I see Patrick Cote. He's that guy that we're going to Canada, hey, put Patrick Cote on the card. You know, that's what he's good for. He's good for a couple thousand fans to come show up because they know the guy. And like you said, I mean, he beat John Fitch after John Fitch had kind of been kicked out of the UFC, kind of ridiculed out of the UFC, had all this really like just bad press. He had just lost. I think he was going through a bunch of stuff in his personal life when he went up against Josh Berkman. And Josh Berkman, outside of the UFC, 9-2. I guess it's a good record, but I mean, you look at the people that he beat, nobody very impressive, you know. So I just think Patrick Cote has got way more in the tank here left, and it's just gonna be one of those fights where, you know, we're just gonna see Josh Berkman get his pink slip handed to him as he's walking out of the cage, probably.
I'm with you on that one. I think Cote wins this fight, and I think we see Berkman leaving another losing streak. All right, moving on to the next fight here. The co-main event was supposed to be Rick Story against Eric Silva. Everybody was excited about Rick Story against Eric Silva. Rick Story gets injured. I forgot what the injury was. Do you remember?
No.
Okay, I want to say it was a knee, but don't quote me. I don't know. So look it up. But regardless, Rick Story injured. He's out of the fight. In steps in a freshly submitted number 15, Neil Magny. Look, man, I don't think we even have to talk about this fight. Like, Neil Magny's going to get subbed in the first round. I think Eric Silva, first of all, let's talk about Eric Silva real quick. Eric Silva, there's one thing you know for sure about him. And somebody has a loud fucking engine over there, and they need to cut the shit out. Anyway. Fucking there's one thing we know about Eric Silva. He wins big and he loses big. He's nothing in the middle. You know what I mean? Holy shit. You still have fart cans in California?
Yeah,
God,
apparently.
Damn. These motherfuckers, I thought they were trying to fix the air in that bitch. All right, never mind. Anyway, Eric Silva wins big and he loses big, right? He either destroys somebody or he gets massacred. But I think he knows, you know, Neil Magny clearly showed his weakness on the ground game against Damian Maia. By the way, that was a huge step up for Neil Magny, in my opinion. The huge, giant step up. So I wasn't surprised to see him get subbed. But, you know, he has a really good shot against Eric Silva, but I don't think it's going to be there. I think Eric Silva's like, yeah, okay, I'm not standing with you. This fight's going to the ground real fast, and I'm going to rear naked choke your ass to another win. What do you think on this one?
Man, it's a hard fight for me. I have written down here, I'll show you. I have Neil Magny but it's really tough for me. It's really tough for me just because Eric Silva, I like the kid. The kid's really one of those prospects that just, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with him. I really don't know. Like we were talking before, like with Uriah Hall. I think both of those guys have all the skills in the world to be number one guy champion for a very long time. But there's something in there that's like maybe it's mental, maybe they're just not as confident once they get in there. They just don't believe in their skill. I don't know. But like Eric Silva, he gets pressured, he cracks. And he like when he went up against, who was it that, John Fitch,
Yeah.
you know, when he went up against John Fitch, he had John Fitch in all kinds of trouble. I mean, he was twisting him like a pretzel and everything. And then when he couldn't finish him, he just shut down. He shut down and he turned into a white belt on the ground. He couldn't defend. He couldn't defend anything. And then he got himself choked out, I believe, right? He got choked out. No, he got decisioned, right? And then who else? Somebody else did the same thing to him. I think it was Matt Brown. Matt Brown did the same thing to him. You know, took his best shots and just basically just broke him. And I think that's where Neil Magny shines. Neil Magny is the type of guy that can take a big shot, knows how to recover, knows how to defend, and knows how to really just stay in the fight and grind away until, you know, he breaks somebody. He's kind of like a Matt Brown, in my opinion, just better. And I think that's propelled Neil Magny here to the win. But if Eric Silva wins, it's probably going to be, like you said, in the first round by some crazy, either like huge punch that like, you know, breaks Neil Magny's face, or, you know, he's going to put him down and like, you know, I don't know, invert choke him or something. He's going to do something exciting in the first round, or he's just going to get destroyed over 3 rounds.
I'm with you on that one too. I like Magny. I'm a big fan of Magny, but you know, he's going to get subbed by Eric Silva, I think. Although, look, if they both agree to just throw down, that'd be great. Eric Silva can still strike. So, but he also has like a glass chin for the most part. So, yeah, we'll see. A tweet over from Max Reed saying, "I genuinely think Silva's hype from 2011, 2012 still be justified. Love his style when he's on point. Exactly, when he's on point, right? So yeah, if he's on point tomorrow, you know, tomorrow." I do. He'd be, you know, he could seem like he's like a good prospect still. By the way, you know what's crazy is Eric Silva looks like he's like 23, 24. He's 31. You know what I mean? He's older. He's not old, but he's getting there. So he needs to get his ass out of that prospect mode and get into fucking do some shit now mode. So,
yeah, you know, and that's the thing. I don't know what is holding him back. Like, you look at those wins. He's got some really, really good wins against some good people. But yeah, it's those losses that set him back so far back, like, and it just seems like, I don't know, like you almost want to just go over, give the guy a hug, and be like, you got this, you know, like someone needs to give this guy like a pep talk before he gets into that cage every single time to really get him going or something, you know, maybe hold his family hostage or something, because it seems like he just like loses the will to fight, like, oh, okay, I'll just live with this position and kind of get beaten here, you know, I just don't get it.
Exactly. You know, now he's one of those guys that I root for. So I hope, you know, he pulls he gets out of that prospect mode and gets him going. But you know, the UFC, as we see, nothing's guaranteed. Not even when you're told you're gonna have a title shot, they give it to somebody else. So, and real quick, because he's coming up for some reason. You know what's funny is Miesha Tate's filming a movie starting on Monday with Holly Holm and Chris Cyborg. You know what I mean? Like look. Life could be a bitch, all right? She's out there filming a fucking show or filming a movie with a chick that's getting a title shot, and then a chick that everybody wants her to fight, and Chris Cyborg, or you know, keeps saying, "Oh, fucking make that fight." So, whatever, man. Miesha Tate's live. Hey, Miesha, call me. You need someone, a shoulder to cry on. I'm not that far from Las Vegas. I know Caraway is a little bit. It's all good. Just come on over. Let me know, and don't tell Alexa. Anyway, moving on here to the main event of UFC Saskatoon. Number 5 Max Holloway is featherweight division. Number 5 Max Holloway is number 7 Charles Oliveira. Seems to me that nobody's picking Oliveira. And look, I'll tell you what I think it is. What, Max Holloway is on a 6-fight win streak. Guys that he's beat: Andre Feely, Clay Collard, Akira Corsani. Okay, not huge, but Cole Miller, pretty legit, I think. And Cub Swanson submits him via guillotine choke. I think if you beat Cub Swanson, your hype is I think mostly justified. But again, a lot of people don't think, you know, Cub Swanson's that great. I do. But you know, he's taking on Charles Oliveira, And look, Charles Oliveira he's been he's experienced as hell, man. He's 20-4, and he's only 25 years old. He's been in the UFC for what, a couple years now? No, he's been in the UFC since like, from what I see here, 2010. He's beaten guys like Efrain Escudero. He's lost to Frankie Edgar and Cub Swanson. Beat Andy Ogle. Beat Nick Lenz. Beat Jeremy Stevens. Riding a 4-fight win streak. 3 finishes, 1 decision. It's gonna be a good fight, I think. But I have to go with my guy Holloway. I think Holloway's just on his way up, and I think while he might not be a champion anytime soon, I think he's gonna be one of those guys that you could say is gonna be a contender for a while. You shaking your head over there, man. What do you think of this fight?
I think everybody's too high on Max Holloway. I think we're all looking for the next BJ Penn. I think that's what it is. It's his style of fighting. It's the way he kind of carries himself. Very, very remissive of BJ Penn. But honestly, I mean, the fight that really settles it for me is that Frankie Edgar fight. Could Max Holloway do what Charles Oliveira did in that fight? No, I don't think so. I don't think that Max Holloway could have stayed in that fight the way Oliveira did, given Frankie the fits that Oliveira did, and I don't think he could have taken Frankie to a decision. I think Max Holloway would have been finished in that fight because of the fact that he's more aggressive. He's a little bit more Hawaiian style, where he, maybe his coaches are going to be like the coaches for BJ Penn, throwing him to do a helo style and just start, throwing whatever he can. That being said, the hype behind Cub Swanson, I'm going to address that real quick. It's not real. It's not real, man. He doesn't have the ground game, and it's been proven time and time again. If you take him to the ground and you got a better ground game than, let's say, maybe a purple belt, you're probably going to submit him very quickly. You could have a little bit of trouble, if you're a less of a belt, maybe a white belt. But Cub Swanson just doesn't seem to have all that put together. That being said, he beat Charles Oliveira early in his career when Oliveira really was still learning the game. Yep, and that's what I think is the difference here. Huh?
That one-punch knockout, but just like you were saying, Oliveira was really young.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And if you look at Charles Oliveira, his progression through the years, he's just gotten better. And every time they throw something really, really good at him, he either rises to the occasion and wins, or rises to the occasion and then learns something and becomes a way better fighter. Ever since that Frankie Edgar loss, I don't think he's lost since then. And he's riding like a 4-fight win streak or something like that, 3 or 4. So
4-fight win streak, 3 submissions, 1 decision.
Yeah. See, so I think people are sleeping here on Charles Oliveira. I think people are believing too much into the hype of Max Holloway just because of one win. And that one win was Cub Swanson. And I think we just all got sold on Cub Swanson from a couple years ago, and I think we've seen the slow decline of Cub Swanson. He even I think he was one of the guys that also said that he wanted to retire a couple like maybe a year ago, didn't he?
Yeah, he mentioned it, I think.
Yeah, so those type of guys where they take a really bad beating and then they're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and then they keep fighting. You kind of got to wonder what their motivation is to keep fighting. I like the guy. I like Cub Swanson. His Killer Cub logo is one of the best out there. But I don't think that win solidifies anybody as a top contender. And I think both of these guys are going to come out. They're going to put on a good show, I think. But I think Oliveira is going to surprise a lot of people with how much he's advanced and how well of an all-around striker he and ground artist he is. Unfortunate for Max Holloway because I like the guy too, but I just think Oliveira's got the win here.
All right, and you know what? If you're right, yeah, a lot of people are going to be surprised because nobody's picking Oliveira that I've seen. Everyone's picking Max Holloway. So that is your main event. Remember, tomorrow is Sunday card, not tonight. Go out and do some shit tonight. Take your lady out, buy her some flowers, maybe get yourself laid. Or ladies, make your man take you out, have him buy you some flowers, give him some after or something. Go have fun, do something normal that human beings do. Then go home
do this, guys. Be like, you know what, babe? I'm gonna record it. I'll watch it tomorrow. We'll go out tonight, get some brownie points, guys. It's not like your lady knows that the UFC is on tomorrow. Don't even tell her. Just be like, you know what? I'm gonna record it, put it on the DVR. I'll watch it tomorrow. Let's do something tonight. Bam, extra brownie points. See, and like it for the guys.
you give away that you're married sometimes. Like you really do. It's like it shows. The experience is there. I'm not, so I got 0 on that. I would have never thought of that shit. I really wouldn't. So yeah, listen to Jesse. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. All right. Remember, it's tomorrow's card. Early Fight Pass prelims at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Fox Sports 1 prelim, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And of course, Fox Sports 1 main card, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And then looking ahead, just the next few cards or next couple cards. You got UFC 191, Johnson against Dodson 2, should be a good fight. UFC Fight Night Japan, Barnett against Nelson, and then UFC 192, Cormier against Gustafsson from Houston. So yeah, we got at least 3 pretty solid cards coming up, and we'll be doing shows for that one too. So hey man, thanks for coming on, dude. I know you're outside, you're with your family trying to go and everything, and it's kind of hot outside. And thank you everyone for watching. Remember, you can go to CrossBonesMMA.com for all of our content. It's always on there, and in fact, this is going to go up in the next few minutes. And we put up news, put up videos, anything that's interesting to MMA fans. We do our best to put up as fast as soon as possible, and yeah, do our thing. Big shout out to FightBookMMA.com. Those guys are always cool. Follow Jesse at SPWAT1983, for Watt 1983, of course, on Twitter, and I'm at Elaw31. You can follow the page at CrossBonesMMA. The keyboard warriors are at Keyboard MMA, and yeah, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. We'll shoot the shit on Twitter tomorrow during the card. And Jesse, you have a good one, and everybody enjoy your day.